Who was the first comedian that you remember made you laugh?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good one. I kind of started out by like at a really young age, like 6 and 7 years old. My parents let me watch like The Office and Arrested Development and Parks and Rec. And for some reason, it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is a real messed up one to watch as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old. But I just like fell in love with all those shows and like wanted to do that. So it was more of like a sitcom. But if I had to pick like a comedian, it would probably be like Aziz Ansari is like my number one guy.
Mm, When you go back to those sitcoms, especially you talk about watching it at 6 or 7, like what do you remember of those sitcoms? Because I'm sure.
I watched The Office when I got home from school, like the entire day until I went to sleep. So I can't watch The Office anymore because I physically know every single line that's said in the show verbatim, which is embarrassing. Because The Office used to be cool. Now it's a little overplayed, but I liked it before Billie Eilish made it cool to watch.
Yeah, because it was Billie Eilish that brought that catalog back. You know what's funny is when me and my cousin went traveling, he had an Office reference for everything, for anyone that we'd meet. And most of the times they wouldn't understand it or they'd be like, no, sorry, I don't watch The Office. But when they did watch The Office, it was like a brotherhood, man. It's like I stood on the sidelines and my cousin and whoever he met, they were just going off as like best friends for the next 5 days.
I feel that. It's become like the most popular, like Peacock's entire streaming service is like we have The Office. I like a lot of their shows, but it's like we have The Office. Like subscribe.
Yeah, we have nothing else, but we do have this show, so give us like $15 a month, even though you could probably stream it elsewhere. In the realm of sitcoms, let's say you were a director, you were a writer. Let's say you could rewrite history and you could put your name as the writer on any sitcom that's ever existed. Which one would you choose?
That is such a difficult. If I could pick like a more like basic sitcom, it'd probably be It's Always Sunny, because they're
Wow.
like what inspired me as a kid to pick up a camera. Because they made their pilot for $500. They were just actors living in LA, and like yeah, and they literally got their agent to bring them to FX and sold it. They made it for free. Like they just bought cameras at Best Buy, filmed the pilot, and now it's the longest running sitcom in history.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So that was kind of why I like started my show, was like, what's a modern day version of kind of doing that? Like, what if I built an audience with it, had the concept for the show, made a cool pilot, and then brought that to a network? They kind of inspired that thought process in my head.
Have you heard of other creators successfully doing that? Creating something on TikTok and then bringing it to a publishing house or a production studio?
Not necessarily TikTok, but there's a tons of stories of like YouTube, like that new Bel Air show. The show Bel Air, like that started as a YouTube video concept. Then Will Smith saw it and had it made. And then like so many people, it's starting to become like the industry used to be so separated. Like there was influencers and then there was like the Hollywood movie TV industry, and they were very separated. But now as they're starting to become more intertwined. Like NBC started this program, like 3 of my friends are in, that is one of them is my friend, 2 of them are like acquaintances, but
We'll call them your friends.
yeah, quote unquote friends. But they are literally just like greenlit 10 creators to make their own shows on Peacock, and they gave them a bunch of money to make a pilot or like multiple episodes. So it's starting to like finally intertwine, which is very cool.
I think that's so smart, right? Like I've always wondered why not? Like, yes, you have Snapchat and all these social platforms giving creators their own original shows. But if there are people like yourself and your so-called friends who have this skill and have this desire, so cheap to greenlight something, and if it pops, you screw The Office. Now it's going to be like Elliott Walker's new show. And if not, whatever, you lose a bit of investment and you move on to something else. Because I've heard 2 sides. I've heard that traditional Hollywood kind of stays away from influencers, creators. And that's the sentiment that I keep hearing. But what you're saying is a little bit different.
I think it depends on how you look at it. Like my content specifically, like I think I'm very different from like a lot of creators. Like there's some creators like Jordan, like you had on the podcast, and like some of the people that are like making really cool stories that are like not what you kind of see when you're swiping. They're not like the average kind of influencer. They're kind of like doing something to build it more, which I would say is what I'm doing. Like the whole reason, like half of the reason I want to like move to LA pretty soon is like TikTok pushes out so much locally that like I want more people in Los Angeles rather than Chicago to be seeing my videos, because like more likely someone in the industry will see it. It's kind of like the views feel good when I get them, but like I just want the right people to see my stuff so they can like unlock more opportunity. Like I feel like I'm using TikTok more of like as leverage than like I don't want it to be my end goal by any means.
Dude, that is so strategic. How deeply do you think about everything you put out? Because I think the argument always goes like artist and then commerce, right? Or maybe artist and more, let's call it like commercial viability.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like there's a lot of people who are walking, both territories. But what you just said to me here, so that's so smart. That's so strategic. I like never even thought about that. Do you think about that, like the analytics, the strategy, how to make it commercial as much as you do the core art and the storytelling that you put out in your videos?
It's kind of a mix, because like one of the things that's kind of difficult. I mean, I know how to write because I've been doing it for almost a year now. I know how to kind of write these 3-page screenplays that I do.
Yeah.
For social. But I do try to think about it in ways that are like snappy, ways that'll keep to the point, like more of like a quicker way of editing them. I don't know. I definitely try to keep the platform in mind, but like a lot of the ideas I come up with are like very genuine, and they're more like just ideas that I want to explore. And then I try to like circulate that into like 1 to 3 minutes, depending.
Yeah, your stuff it's so interesting to me. I think I said this in the email when I emailed you to come on the pod. There's a Chicago rapper named Tierra Whack. I don't know. Are you familiar with Tierra?
I'm not.
Okay. So back when this was before TikTok, this was more like when and Instagram was really dominant. She came out with an album, but what she did is she fit it to the system of Instagram. She made, I think it was 9 or 10 1-minute songs, which were each videos on IG, because at that point there was no Reels, there was no IGTV.
Yeah.
And so she's like, hang on, let me fit the system that's popping off, that's popular right now, but in a way that fits the industry that I'm in, or fits the lane that I'm in. And I don't know how well it did, but it definitely picked up a lot of acclaim, and it made me think like, oh, whenever you see someone bringing two worlds like that together, you got to pay attention. And what you're doing in terms of taking episodes and making short films on TikTok where people can swipe away in a millisecond is so unique, man. You talked about Always Sunny being the inspiration. Is that really where it started?
Yeah, I would say 2 of my favorite shows are like It's Always Sunny and Master of None, which Aziz Ansari did, which is very, because I definitely want like my stuff to be more like kind of artfully filmed. Like we shoot all of our episodes now on 1970s vintage Minolta lenses that are,
I don't even know what that is.
It's like just vintage lenses from the 70s that are like aged in really cool ways and make things look really cool. I barely know what they are, but they're cool looking. I totally lost my train of thought talking about those lenses.
All good. Okay, well, hang on. Let's go a little deeper on those lenses. How did why those lenses? How did you come to those lenses?
They're also $20. So it's super cheap, and they're nice. I have to manually focus everything. There's no autofocus. But also I watched The Batman, and they use this lens called the Helios 44 or something like that. I forget what it's really pretty. And I was like, I want to use old lenses. Like that gives a look I really like. And then I'm like, filming it vertically, which is really funny. Yeah.
So no. I think, again, so cool taking something that used to be top of its class, used to be like what everyone used to know at the time. It goes away, and you're kind of bringing back that history. Have you ever been fascinated with film history, with comedy history?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like a lot of, because like I'm always like attracted to people's like how they made it stories, because everyone's is really different, especially in the industry.
Cool.
And like for a while I was like, I know what I want to do. Like I know I want to make a sitcom. When I was like 18, I got all my friends together and we made like an actual sitcom pilot that was horrible, but it taught me so much. And then like making this show for the past year has like made me grow so much as a writer, because like I feel like film students, like they'll make short films, they'll do stuff like that, but like I'm like consistently more making things and like writing things to be shot rather than writing things that'll never be made or like be made in a really long time. So it's really helped me like establish my tone and voice as a writer, making stuff so consistently, and then also like have an arsenal of work under me too.
Yeah. So then how do you view, or what's your perspective on consistency versus quality? Because I guess at the beginning, as you were saying, you can get stuff out to get the reps, but it might not get you the looks. It might not get you the head nods that you're looking for. So how do you balance the two?
Yeah, when I used to do TikTok for Gary Vee. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I used to run. I was like on his TikTok team, and I would have to make 7 TikToks a day and post 7 a day.
Jesus,
it was.
What year was this?
This was 2020.
Wow.
When I was on Team Gary, and then I did some other work for Vayner after that. But it was a lot, and I was like, I thought I understood the algorithm then. I kind of used to do other videos before I did my filmmaking stuff. Like I used to. Or like average kind of TikTok stuff, unfortunately. But I learned a lot. Then I did it to Gary. But then now that I do my own like kind of thing, and I do take my time. Like my videos take like upwards of 100 hours each, 150, 200 hours each to make.
No way.
Because it takes a really long time. But like I've noticed weirdly, it's good to get stuff out consistently like every week. But the algorithm, I feel like has maybe changed a little bit because a lot of my videos still do really well, even though sometimes I'll post like a month apart. But like I waited one time a month between videos, and it got 3 million views overnight. So like I've gone back and forth of like I don't know, and then I feel like one thing that I like about being more intentional with my TikTok videos too is like I feel like my followers are on TikTok and Instagram are closer to more of like a YouTube subscriber than the normal TikTok followers are, just because my content's super intentional.
Yeah.
Like you have to like my message, sit through the whole thing to actually drop a follow typically. Like you have to really like my work more than like, I feel like a lot of other TikTokers that kind of just like, a lot of them do the same thing. There's obviously people that do stuff like me, but I feel like the film talkers like more like they're getting followers that more are resonating with their message because they're being maybe more personal. A lot of more style in it. So I definitely feel, I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah. And what makes you say that? What makes you say that the relationship feels a lot more like a YouTube subscriber than a TikTok subscriber? Like, what are you looking at? What are you seeing?
Back when I used to make like other videos, like I used to just do like kind of story time stuff that would get crazy, like get like 10 million views and stuff. But like the followers that I would get even doing that stuff consistently, like they never really like I feel like it never spoke to them. Like I never got comments of people that were like really resonating with that. I never got DMs from people that like it spoke to. Like so now it's like the comments that I get are like so personal, like people really relate to what I'm talking about or will apply it into their own situations. Or I'll get DMs from people that are like, dude, I really love what you're doing. You've inspired me to start picking up cameras, and like you really like started that out. So I feel like I'm speaking to people on more of a personal level than I was with the other type of videos.
Yeah. Well, outside of the art, again, of creating this sitcom, that being the end goal, writing comedy, did you ever look to create with the idea of creating an impact and inspiring others?
Definitely. Especially like I used to work for a few YouTubers back in high school. I would kind of save up my money and go to New York like 2 summers and live on my friend's couch. And I worked for Sarah Gucci, if you know her. She's a YouTuber. I worked for her when I was in high school. And then a few others, like Brett Conti, a few others like that. But I used to just love, like, getting my friends into it. Like, when I started picking up a camera more in high school, like, I just loved, like, being like, let's all go make something we're really proud of. That's why I really love working with a team, too. Because I love just I love getting people excited about an idea, and then we can all just go out and make something we're really proud of. That's definitely one of my things.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of is, and this is kind of timely. Yesterday, I'm a big fan of Zane Lowe. Do you know Zane Lowe, the journalist in the music industry? He works for Apple Music now.
No.
Okay. He's the guy that will, under Apple Music, he used to work for Beats. He is the guy now that will interview like the top of the top. I think he's from New Zealand. Again, an amazing interviewer, really interesting personality, and like really loves the art. And I don't know why, I started watching an interview between him and Drake when I think this is maybe 6 or 7 years ago when Drake put out, if you're reading this, it's too late. Or maybe that's like, I don't know if the wording is exact there, but what he was saying was he said to Drake, how did you put this out? Why did you put this out? And Drake was like, I'm just so excited to put this out because every time I show my friends and the people that care the most, like, or that mean the most to me, when I show them this album, they love it. And so to me, that's how we chose our songs. And I was like, oh, what a beautiful way to go about creating art. And it seems like you go about it in a similar way with this community around you.
Yeah, I would definitely say, like, like I used to just make all my videos by myself, and it was kind of like started to like I never liked it. That's kind of why I was always also kind of geared towards the film industry. Like I obviously wanted to do narrative stuff, but definitely like having my team with me. Like we kind of have a little writer's room we do, and we'll kind of like jam out ideas. Cool. Like I write the scripts out, but like we kind of go out and like throw ideas out. And that's definitely one of my favorite things is just getting into a room with some of my friends that I really like, and like we can just have fun and come up with really cool stuff we really like. And the team aspect, like I just kind of hate working by myself, so it's nice to have like, people around me that are also excited about it.
Yeah, man, as they should be. The stuff you create is killer. You talk about coming up with ideas. You have a writer's room, which again, very traditional in this TV film type mentality. Like, how do you come up with ideas? What are the exercises that you and your team go through to get to the ideas that you eventually start creating?
Yeah, typically I kind of will listen to music alone in my apartment, like certain songs that I'll like associate with a feeling or like a scene, and then I'll come up with like a really cool concept for a scene, and then I'll build out a story around one of those scenes. And weirdly enough, like when I meet with the writers after that, and we kind of like chalk it with jokes and like, but typically I'm coming up with most like the main concepts for it.
Yeah.
But it's a fun process. I mean, I do most of the jobs still myself. Like I direct everyone, I write everyone, I star in everyone, I produce everyone. I kind of do a lot of the things. I bring on some people for like BTS or like I started realizing later on when it was like us having 10 different locations, like it was hard to manage all these people and get them places certain times. I kind of sort of produce. The writer's room thing is where I probably have the most fun, just because I'm able to like I said, just hanging out with the friends and coming up with cool stuff.
Okay. You know what's cool is I went down a rabbit hole of Quentin Tarantino around a year ago. I wasn't funny enough. I think I might have seen one of his films growing up. I only became like creatively curious maybe, or curious about the arts and creativity later on in my life. And so when I came across Quentin, I was like, oh geez, I gotta spend time with him. And the one thing that I found so interesting was that he would always speak about how he'll write his scenes to a song. Like he'll have the song playing, and that's how he's writing his songs. It's cool to see the not to say you're Quentin Tarantino, but it's cool to see the parallels. How did you come up with that practice of writing to songs?
Music's been a part of my life my whole life. Like my parents met in a band. They like
no way.
It was like Blink-182. They opened for some, I think something like that. They were in a pretty sized band back when I was born.
Wow.
And as actually a 3-4-year-old, I used to be a popular MySpace rapper as a 3-year-old, and my dad would write these for me, and they would be very popular, very random.
Wait, hang on. We're not skipping over this. This is crazy. Walk me through how you were a MySpace rapper at 3 or 4 years old.
My dad would just make all these beats all the time, and then one day he was like, "Elliott, you're 3 years old. Come up with some funny little lyrics for this and come on the track." And then we would make songs, and they would do really like decently well back in MySpace. This is like 2006, 2005.
What were you talking? What were the topics that were in your mind at 3 or 4 years old?
About bad guys and trains and all these things. It was very funny. The account got hacked, so it's not on MySpace anymore, unfortunately. But
oh my God, man.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. So I kind of did that at a young age, and then like it moved on to like I almost like back in the day, like I almost got this Cartoon Network show that I was going to be on as a kid. It ended up following through because it got moved to Disney Channel and became a different show. But I kind of always been creating stuff for a while, oddly enough. Very funny story.
I was watching one that's unbelievable. 2, I was watching one of your TikToks a while back, and something popped out at me. I'm going to give you a name, and I want you to tell me what this name means. Yeah. Miley Cyrus.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about this.
Back when I was a MySpace rapper, one time they flew me and my dad and my mom, I think, to Nashville. I barely remember this. I just understand based on stories they've told me. In this like studio, or not studio, but like a music executive place. Yeah. And like my dad was talking to this guy about me, and then I'm in the back of the room like throwing this ball against the wall while they're talking in the meeting, this fancy meeting they like flew us out for. And then they were like, yeah, so we're thinking about attaching him to Miley Cyrus. And then the other name they said was Rascal Flatts.
What?
They were like, we think he'd be funny if he toured with like it was very odd. But like they wanted to set me up, but then my mom was like, all these Disney people like kind of have had not the best after things. So she's like, you're really young. We probably shouldn't move this as forward as we did. Because I did like this. I would do like mute, like I did like this song for this movie one time. There was a bunch of stuff. It was interesting, very interesting stuff.
You got to put your stories out just through the 25-ish minutes that we've been talking. The amount of stuff that's like in my head, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many doors that I need to go down. That's insane. But also shout out to your mom for having the foresight of, you know what, there's momentum, there's some fame, there's some cool popularity that can happen here. But well, I'm going to do what's good for the betterment of my kid.
She's a designer. Like she watches all the YouTubers I watch. Like she's so into like she's in marketing and design. So like she's supported the whole thing. Very awesome. Yeah.
I was gonna ask about your parents because it seems like you're in this position where you're just freely exploring what you love and working with who you love and doing what you love. And I feel like that probably comes from an element of just being supported with everything that you wanted to do as a kid. Is that who your parents were like growing up?
100%. My dad was just super music oriented. They were both just like so supportive of me doing this stuff all the time, which was so cool. I found it, you know, Darren?
I've seen the name because I remember watching one of your TikToks and you're like, I get inspired by Jordan Studdard, and then there was someone after it, and I remember going to the profile, but I hadn't come across him before.
He's a cool dude. He's part of that MVC program thing. But we both, I met with him in New York a few weeks ago, and we both found out that we grew up at Disney World, and we both make narrative TikToks. It's a fun little fact. But we were talking like my mom used to work at Disney as a designer, so I grew up just kind of going to Disney every day in the back lot, and then I was talking to Darren, and Darren's like, dude, I lived outside Disneyland. All my family lived there. I went there every day. I was like, wow, maybe if you make narrative TikTok videos, then you grew up at Disney. Fun fact. I don't know what it's mine, but it was funny to learn.
Well, talking, you know what, going all the way back to what you told me earlier about how you think you want to move to LA because that's going to put you in the environment where you're going to be seen and the people seeing your stuff might actually lead you to the next element in your career. There's definitely something about putting yourself in the environment where everything happens, and there's no better place than Disney.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Disney, because I grew up going there every day, it's one of my favorite places to go. It's like I moved almost every year of my life, too. Like I've lived in 25 different houses. Like I moved almost every year, and like Disney's the one. Disneyland is the one place that's been like in my life, like the cool spot. It inspires me a lot. It just like not to be a Disney adult or anything. But it's one of the.
That's super interesting. I feel like I keep saying like, oh, this reminds me of, but I forget which athlete this was. But they had a very similar structural story to you in terms of like they jumped around growing up all the time. But the thing that gave them solace, like the thing that they felt so warm and felt at home in was playing baseball on the diamond. Because that was like the one certainty. You knew where the mound was. You knew where the bases were. You knew what you needed to do and like how far and where you couldn't go.
Yeah. Weirdly what Disney World is for me.
I just read, there's a book called Disney's Land. Have you ever heard of it?
No. What is that?
Okay, it's a book called Disney's Land, and it's all about how and why Walt and his team built Disneyland.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah.
Fascinating, man. So fascinating about the psychology. I feel like that could just be a psychology class.
Oh, 100%. Like Epcot originally was supposed to be like this city, like bigger than New York, that had these revolutionary transit systems and was like designed in this way that's never been done. He was like, and then it turned into a theme park because he died, but crazy stuff. Anyway.
Jesus, man. Well, talking about, inspiration on Epcot and Disneyland, Disney World, outside of the sitcoms that you used to watch, who inspires you or what inspires you?
Wow, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I can imagine hearing your story. There's many different forces.
It's I don't even know. I feel like I've just been like when I was 14, 15 is when I started like doing YouTube like consistently.
Oh wow.
Quote unquote consistently, not consistently. Like I worked for YouTubers and I was doing video work.
Yeah.
I in high school I was like, high school's a waste of time. I just want to make videos when I get home. So like I just got so into it that now it's almost like, now that I've been making my show for a year and diving deep, like I'm finally experiencing like the first burnout I've ever had.
Wow.
From making the show. Just because like since I was 14, I picked up a camera and like I thought everything else, like I was very Gary V mindset then, where I was like, I just want to be making all the time. Now it's definitely dialed down, but I just feel like I've been going nonstop for many years. And finally it's like, wow, this is kind of getting to me a little bit.
How often do you reevaluate like this? Because I remember, again, watching a TikTok video of what you were saying, and you were talking similar to this. You're saying you got into YouTube at a pretty young age, and you found that throughout your life and throughout that period, you weren't able to just stop. And I think you used the term goal orient yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of like, I probably don't do it enough where I kind of like think about it.
Yeah.
I definitely think what I'm doing now is like really cool. I've just been starting to get tons of anxiety around like, I don't know, it's become, I don't even know how to describe it because I've never really had burnout to this extent. But it's really started to catch up to me. Like the reason I came to LA was like, I was like, okay, I need a break. I need to disconnect. I think when I get back to Chicago, I might like delete social media for 2 weeks. But like, it's like gotten, it's especially because I put so many hundreds of hours into my videos that it's like, especially like, I hate to say that like I don't know if my well-being, but my mindset's so attached to like the viewership or like all these things I get. And like, it can get overwhelming when I put like, especially more work than the average TikTok into it.
Yeah, wanted to ask you about that, right? Like you play to a system where it's kind of the idea, you put it out and then it's out of your hands. Like, yes, you can kind of figure out the right time and you can figure out pacing and thumbnails and stuff like that and the right music, fine. But as you're telling me here, you put so much love and care and so many hours into this thing. How do you deal with that, man? How do you deal with putting something out that means so much, but it goes into a system that devalues all the work that you do unless it goes viral?
Yeah, that is one of the hardest things that I try to deal with because I'm very attached. Like a lot of my videos are like from a very personal place and based on like kind of my experiences and stuff. And obviously I know it's like typically like like I try to make my hooks as cool as possible and I'll rework them and stuff. But like, hate to say that it hurts sometimes when the views aren't there. Like I wish it didn't feel that way. Like it's such a part of like I want to try to get to a place where I value it based on the quality of it rather than as much as the viewership. Because like even if I was making an actual TV show, like it would still be based on viewership to some extent. But it's tough. Like I don't know, when I do most of the jobs on a film set, like our shoots, like I probably spend so many hours writing, and then our shoot days typically go for like 12 hours, like 11 hours sometimes. Just because like it used to be a little longer because we'd have so many different locations, and like we'd have to go around, and we all would get on the train or all go around. Kind of lost my train of thought, my bad. But like
you're good.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of creating, let's say like a direct to the audience type communication, like a newsletter or a Substack or a potentially even like a paid system, so you know, okay, a week before you put this out on this like crazy world of social media, algorithmically driven world of social media, you can push it to the people that really care for who you are, your art, your storytelling. You get the value from that, and then you put it out. And if it reaches more people, great. But if it doesn't matter because the core people who care about you and care for the stuff really matter. Has that ever been a thought?
That sounds awesome. I've kind of thought about that a little bit, but you gave those examples. That kind of sounded really cool. I'd kind of thought of a newsletter a little bit, but that was really, I might want to look into.
I wonder if that would, I'm not going to say solve the problem, but I wonder if that becomes, right, because at that point, you talk about you create so intentionally. And so how do you find the audience that is so intentional towards you? Yeah. Because then I think there you get that back and forth that you really want.
It's very tough too. As much as I like the videos doing well, I try to remind myself that like I am trying to do this more of like as a leverage play, and I'm trying to like use this to build to the next opportunity. So it's like one view is the right view. Like it just takes like one person in this. I stole that from a YouTuber called Roberto Blake, but
I know. So good.
I didn't come up with that. He used to talk about that when I would watch him, but he like Yeah, I just feel like getting it into the eyes of the right people is also an important part. So it's like it kind of battles like, do I want to get more into it in like from a creator standpoint? Because I do,
Yeah.
but it's like, yeah, I go back and forth on like some of that.
Well, then I want to ask you, when I say the word, oh, you're a creator, you're an influencer, do you feel like you identify with that? Or are there other words, other terms because of all the effort, care, and more traditional entertainment making process that you go about that you would associate yourself with?
I would definitely say I'm a creator for sure, for sure. I don't know if I like the term influencer that much, but I
Yeah,
definitely like creator term.
cool.
Because there are a lot of other people on TikTok that do, film stuff and put a lot of their effort into it too. It's not
Yeah.
like just, but yeah, I would say so.
So then let me ask you this, because a little earlier on you were saying when you started on TikTok, and as I've seen when I was scrolling through your stuff, it was punchy. It was, let me do a street style interview and just make fun and cut the interview half the way through, or do
Yeah.
something that's kind of comedic or something that's more trend based. But you were doing well, and like you really were doing well with that style. How do you have the confidence to just sabotage the success and then go do something that requires so many more hours that's so different?
Man, I guess I don't know if I've thought about that too much. I guess I was kind of making that stuff and it really didn't seem like me. It was kind of like I built this TikTok strategy up and we're doing those videos like that. And then I got hired for Vayner and was making even more of that stuff really consistently, trying to get stuff to go viral.
Yeah.
And then I got sick of that rhetoric or just like sick of that idea of like, I'm just making this to perform or do like, I still try to make my videos perform, but like, I'm just making this to like, to make it. And like, I was like, I want to like look back at like all the people that I admire and kind of where I want to be in my life, which is hopefully one day making like an actual TV show.
No, you'll get there. 100%, you'll get there.
I don't know. I was like, what could I do in my life right now that could help build me towards that would actually have meaningful impact? Because like I was like, I'm gonna go to film school. I could do the route of like making short films, going to festivals. But I was like, what if I use this really big tool I have right now? Because I already had like 200,000 something followers at that time. And I was like, what if I took this and then just did what I really wanted to make, got views on that, got people to really like me for my work, and then like if I ever made a short film, went to a festival, people would be like, oh, he has an audience with him, like we should help him grow his career. Like it just, I feel like having that TikTok following, having my work there is just a very good added bonus also. So like if I wanted to go the more traditional route and try that, like it's good to have that in the arsenal.
And what a smart way to go about it. But also what a cool story that'll be, where you're like, I used the platform that could get me a ton of reach, not to become famous, but to get in the hands and to get in front of the right people. And then this was my concept, or this was, I don't know exactly what it's called in film and TV, but here's my proof of concept of what I'm doing of my show. Hey, buy into it. There's already an audience and a following. I think to your point, it's just that when that one person comes across it. Have you had any conversations? Has anyone come to you and said, you know what, I love what you're doing? Like, have you ever thought of selling this to someone?
I've had a few, yeah. It's kind of like right now I'm trying to find like a manager that's kind of in more of the Hollywood industry that's a good fit for me, that can like help me take my stuff and like build it out. But we also just like got one of my friends I met when I was doing some of the
one of your
stuff.
friends. Yeah, one of your friends.
One of my friends.
One of your
friends. Back in like, it was kind of during the Vayner. I met him in New York when I lived there, but he might be financing one of our TikToks for the first time.
Wow.
So we would have a budget, and the plan right now is like, we think we're gonna try to make like a Netflix level trailer for the show we really want to make. And like we're gonna be like, me and my friends wanted a Netflix show, but we couldn't get one, so we made a trailer, and we're gonna make like the highest quality, hopefully, trailer based on like the TikTok show or the actual show we want to turn that into, and then use that along with the show, get a manager, help us shop around, hopefully get something. But I'm also 21, so like, who knows if any of this is gonna happen anytime soon.
Yeah, there's two things. So one is you remind me of someone's career a ton, and I'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, you were speaking a little bit before about, you use social media as a way to just try different things, see what you like, right? You kind of sabotage that success. You're like, that's not me. I want to do something more purposeful. You try this out. Then you try your episodic content out. You're saying you're still obviously you're super early in your journey, Are you working towards something in terms of you're like, I don't care where the success hits because I know I need to become a better writer and director and X and Y today. And once that foundation's built, then I'm going to put all my effort into it? Or do you feel like you're at a point now where if someone believes in you, you're ready to go?
I think it's definitely a mix of both. Like making my show makes me so much of a better writer and a better actor and a better everything. It's just like making stuff consistently on that level has helped me grow so much.
I'm sure.
As a person and as because it's a lot of freaking work, man. And then also like as a creative person too. But definitely right now I'm borrowing my friend's IMDb Pro account and I'm just finding all the people's careers that I admire and like finding agencies that would maybe be interested, like management agencies that would be interested in that, and then just reaching out. I've had a few reach out, but like none of them have been like a good fit. They're either more in the influencer realm, or it's like I don't know how much they're actually going to help contribute. So it's like I want to try to find one that's a good fit, hopefully. But I'm definitely like if someone was like, "We'll give you a show right now," like I'm not going to say no. But like I definitely think I have a lot of growing to do still, and like I want to build myself up. Like I'm nowhere near ready to make like a perfect thing.
For sure. And so what do you look for in, like, if you were to paint where you are today, if you were to paint the perfect manager, what does that look like for you? Who are they? Yeah. Like what's the personality? What's their experience? What do they say to you? How do they support you?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of just, I want to try to find someone that understands, because a lot of people in like Hollywood and stuff don't understand the internet that much and they don't look at the internet that much. So it's trying to find someone that understands the leverage that I have to like with an audience that can help formulate that in a way that maybe like a network or somebody would understand.
Gotcha.
Just finding a way to like someone that believes in it for real, like understands really what we're trying to do and like what the goal is, and then can take that along with like our proof of concept, hopefully really cool trailer and like all of our episodes and like be like, this kid has a cool show that's pretty well made. He has an audience with it. He has a cool trailer. Like we could make this at this level for a low budget. Just get like all I want is like so much doing this work all myself. Like I do most of the jobs myself. I'll have like a DP to hold the camera, but most of the jobs are done by me, which is very stressful. So kind of for like these kind of sets, just because they're really long shooting days and I have to like coordinate people, make sure they're all here. Like we have like multiple actors per episode. Like it gets very annoying. I just want to have the freedom to like have a team behind me that's paid, that really likes what they're doing, and then have the place that I can put it out at where I don't have to worry about the views and don't have to worry about like responding to comments. Like I kind of just want to like I love the internet. Like it's given me everything that I have. But I feel like I'm creating on the internet to hopefully escape the internet.
Dude, that should be your tagline. Genuinely, like creating on the internet, so one day I never have to see you again. Like, I feel like that would pick up. So, hearing all this stuff makes me wonder: do you have a hard time letting go of control, or is it just that you want to do everything yourself to get better at everything?
It's a mix of the two, especially because of how short our things are. Like our scripts never look how they are in the edit. We typically have reshoots, and most of the story is found in the edit. Like our scripts like are somewhat familiar, but they typically look extremely like not extremely, but a good amount different. Product. Me being able to direct and like edit, editing takes the most time, and like it does help me grow, but also it's like if I'm making stuff this short and for no budget, pretty much, like I want to be able to make sure it's how I see it in my head. If that sense. I don't have like let go. For sure. I don't have like control issues. Like I would be absolutely open to someone doing it. But like it I don't know. I want to make sure like what I'm making gets across in the way that I want it to. And it's hard to do when I have very little budget to make these or like really good at it and stuff like that. So I just try to keep it to me. Explain what you mean by the story. I think you said the story is found in the edit. What does that mean? Yeah, I typically start like I write like probably a 3-page screenplay that ends up being an episode, and that has like our hook and then the main story. But and like I'll have voiceover in there. But I started writing like the voiceover and stuff like that to be completely different because I typically will like have all the footage, listen to tons of different songs that could go along with the scenes because typically they're never the ones I originally think of just because we shoot for free. So the vibe ends up something. It's usually okay, but like the vibe is different than how we intended typically. So
Mm.
sometimes I have to kind of look for songs that'll match it. And then like that vibe that we filmed for maybe doesn't match with the original voiceover, the
Mm.
original script we were saying. So
Mm.
typically I just want it to flow the best and have the tone that I want it to have. So typically that shifts a lot in editing and has to be
Gotcha.
switched up. And a lot of times that even add means like we have to add reshoots. Like I'll think of scenes to add in between things to that will
Huh.
better bridge if like something doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Or it's like so stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw in one video you talk about the use of music and the use of songs. I saw in one
Mhm.
video, I don't know if this was a like satirical comment of yours, but you
Yeah.
talked about creating a playlist with all the songs that you had used in that episode or in that show. Is that something you're actively doing all the time to get people more engrossed in your storytelling and in your world?
I haven't updated in a little bit, but I do have kind of our soundtrack in a Spotify playlist that does have a good amount of likes.
That's sick. That's so cool.
Because our music choices are a lot of what resonates with people because we use some cool songs that people really like, and
Yeah.
I think it amplifies. Sometimes I'll watch a movie that I really like, and then I'll be like, you know, what'd be cool? We should just take some of these soundtrack elements and put that in here because that would match this vibe really well. Typically, that's afterwards. It really amplifies so many of our scenes. Like
Wow.
it, especially this short of something, like having a really cool track that people really resonate with and like is like
Mm.
it brings people into it so much more.
Have you ever thought of working with artists, like music artists that you really like, but are super small, they don't have distribution, and like using their songs to help them break their songs, but in your films?
I've actually had a lot of people kind of reach out about that, but it's also very particular. Like it sounds maybe stupid, but I will
No?
take like, sometimes it takes like 35, 45 minutes to an hour to find the right song for a scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's tough to like
I see what
have
you're
one
saying.
that someone sends me where I'm like, I can 100% use that. Because typically it's like, and luckily I post on TikTok, so like copyright is almost non-existent for like posting. I actually got my first copyright thing on my last episode. I had to repost it. I use like these absurd like 70s like Italian music a lot of the time that are like these really cool fanfares and intense, like cool. And a lot of times those are like not on TikTok. I had to redo that one twice. I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to find one that fits it, but
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
describing the job of a music supervisor. Okay? Like there are people that their whole job is let's find songs that fit exactly what the director or the writer or the DP.
yeah. One of my family friends that lived with me when I lived at Disney in Orlando. He was a supervisor at Paramount, and he kind
Wow.
of told me some of the stuff he did, and that kind of got me into it. And then Master of None, which is one of my favorite shows and what really inspired a lot of my filmmaking style. I've built off of it, but their music supervisor, Zach Cowie, I love him so much. He has the coolest Spotify playlists of all time. They're all just these really deep cut from like other cultures and countries that are just like these they're so cool, and they just have this amazing sound and story behind them, and they just inspire me so much for some of
Oh
these.
man, I need you to send me that Spotify playlist. I
Yeah,
need to check
totally.
that out. Do you know who Cole Bennett is? Lyrical Lemonade?
Yeah. Is he in Chicago?
Yeah. Yeah.
My old roommate knows him and used to work with him at my
Oh.
last place. Yeah.
I highest respect for what that guy does, how he thinks about things, how he's built his brand, etc., what he's done for the music culture. But the one thing, so there was a Hot Ones episode that came out with him yesterday, which I think you'd find interesting. And the question I always ask is, are music videos worth it in 2022? And his answer goes, oh, 100% it's worth it, because what music videos do is they augment the sound. They bring in a second element, or they bring another sense into just the audio that comes through your ears to really connect with it. And I think when you look at it like that,
Yeah.
the amount of money you're spending, that makes a lot of sense. It doesn't feel with the music videos that are coming out today like a lot of people think in that way.
I would definitely say that's one of the biggest things for me is like, or I
Watching
try
the music
to,
video.
not on the level of Cole Bennett, but like I try to like really, or like just finding the right song to match the visuals of what I'm having in the storyline. Like
Yeah.
probably my favorite part, honestly.
You're like Christopher Columbus in like Epidemic Sound, or in like the back catalog of the most random bands from like Phoenix in like the 1970s.
Yeah.
So what I was going to like earlier, I said you remind me like your trajectory, how you're speaking about your career, where you want to go. It reminds me a lot of another artist, someone else's career, and that's Lil Dicky. Have you ever looked at Lil Dicky?
I love Lil Dicky. His show Dave is so funny. I love
Hey,
it.
well, what's interesting about Lil Dicky and his rise in his career and your career, I actually have this whole theory called the Lil Dickyification of talent. And I think what he did is he always wanted to write comedy, film, but more so film and TV. And he didn't have the connects. He didn't have the opportunity. But he was a great rapper and he was satirical with it and he was comedic. And so what he does is he builds up his career that way. And once he builds up his career that way, he then gets enough leverage. And that leverage then leads him to Scooter Braun, who is getting into the film and TV space. And then Scooter starts repping him. He hasn't put out music ever since he signed with Scooter. You talk about finding the right person. And then he created Dave. And now he's going crazy.
Literally, it's crazy.
So, because when you say, like, that's not my end goal, like, I'm good at what I do now. I like creating content. But where I really want to get to is writing my own comedy show, writing my own sitcom. It feels like the parallels are there between both your careers.
Wow, I never thought about that, but a little bit. Hopefully, one day.
One day. I think it'd be cool. I don't think you find talent often where in any sphere where it's like, I'm really good at what I do now, but in the back of my mind every single day, there's a goal of getting to this other thing.
Yeah.
And having both of those side by side tangential, it almost feels unstoppable.
Hope so. That'd be awesome. Yeah, I never thought about that. That's very cool. I kind of always forget about how he started.
Different, man. It's different. Well, here, take me back a little bit. You spoke about how early on you were big in YouTube. 13, 14, 15, 16, you were working for Sarah Dietschy and a bunch of others. What was the YouTube creator space like at that time? Because I feel like it's matured to a place where everyone's talking about it. But back then, it was definitely a lot more niche.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like it's very different than it is now. Because I used to just make like tech videos like Sarah Dietschy would. Like I used to kind of do that kind of stuff on YouTube. I had like like my max was like 4,000 subscribers. But I used to kind of like, yeah, it was super fun. I think when I was first working out of the 368 building, not the actual 368 production, but the building where Casey and Sarah and stuff worked out of, like I think it was still Beam at the time before kind of that found it out. And I just remember like when I first walked into that building, it was like magical because I had always watched Casey. And then I was like, I once visited New York and like went to the office and like got a picture outside Casey's office. Not with him. I wasn't one of those people. When I came back and like was like, oh wow. Like when I was in high school, like I had this internship program as a part of my high school. And you had to leave school for a month and go wherever you wanted and to work for people. So I sent one to like MKBHD and to Sam Sheffer and Sarah Dietschy and like two others. Jeez. And I got yeses for most of them. MKBHD's got returned, but all the other ones said yes. And then I was like, I want to try to work for Sarah. So I like saved up a bunch of money, went and lived on one of my family friends' couch in New Jersey and like took the bus 2 hours in every day. Not every day. I worked for like a few days a week, but.
And what were you doing for her?
She had never had someone work for her at that time because she was still kind of smaller.
Wow. How old were you at the time?
I think I was 15, 16.
Wow. And
I went out there and I kind of was just like filming for her. I would kind of do like some micro content stuff for her. And then the real thing was when I was working for Sarah Dietschy, when I was there in like January of like 2016, something like that. I think 2016.
Yeah.
We did a podcast with Gary Vee. And I got to film it. And that was kind of how I got in and met D-Rock and met all those Vayner people for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's kind of how that led to me working on Team Gary.
What a story, man. What do you think you took away from working with Sarah? What was like the biggest learning? What was the thing that sticks in your mind the most?
She taught me so much about like consistently making stuff and what that like realistically looks like, especially from like a production standpoint. Like she was also vlogging around that time, so like how much you have to make a cool vlog, how much you have to put into your day and kind of like build it out. But it was very cool. It was one of the coolest things I've done. Like it was like one of my first times in New York too. I was there by myself as like a 16-year-old. It was very cool. Sam Sheffer also said yes, but I don't think he's too fond of me anymore because I said I wasn't gonna work for Sarah, and he got a little upset. And then another time, I accidentally invited like 50 kids into his Discord server by accident, and I think both those things kind of set it over the edge. Random fact.
When you're bringing an audience, I feel like people should be happy.
Yeah, I know.
It must be interesting looking back on that time where I've only been in the space for 2 years, And so I've
Yeah.
been at it at its peak when everything's sophisticated and creators are now seen in Hollywood as maybe kind of peers to the more traditional world. And there's a lot of money and brand deals and all that stuff around it. But it must be super interesting having the experience, really going through with really high quality creators. But before the creator space became the creator space, and then having that perspective and now getting to do your own thing. And so I'm guessing like nothing surprises you at this point.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess maybe a little bit. I've been in it for a while
Yeah.
now. I guess
Yeah.
like I'm gonna count the years on my fingers because I'm terrible at math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7-ish years that I've been doing the creator stuff.
That is wild. That is wild, man. You said you looked up to a lot of people in the creator world growing up. Who were those people?
Yeah, I started out by just watching tech YouTubers like MKBHD and all them, and I obviously watched shows. That was like my first entry into the YouTube thing, and I sort of tried doing that. And then progressively, I found Casey Neistat, and then that like blew up my whole world. I was like, oh, I just want to go to New York and do stuff like this. And like, I've still never met him personally, even though I worked in the building and I've passed him 12 times, but he doesn't know me personally. Yeah, weirdly enough, my friend was in Washington Square Park the other day, and he texted me and said, yo, Dan Mace just asked me about you by name. I didn't know he knew who I was. So that was a fun thing to hear. I kind of freaked out when that was sent to me. I had a little panic. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, maybe that's what turned you into your burnout phase.
That's so true. That was the switch.
Isn't that crazy, man, that you never know who's watching you? Like, you can say Casey doesn't know who you are. I have a good feeling Casey knows who you are.
I would hope so. I do know a lot of the people he works with, so that'd be cool.
But it is wild. Like, that's the magic. You talk about, like, we talk about Disney World, like the magic at Disney World, right? Like, everything's better, life's better, the story's better. But I think that's the magic of creating content is, to your point, you just need that one person. And that one person may already be watching you who you're looking for. And so when you meet them, they're like, oh, what's going on? Yeah, I've known exactly who you are. And you're like, what?
Yeah. Definitely that's a weird thing about kind of TikTok too being pushed out so locally is because like in Chicago for a while, like through the first season of our show, like people would know who I was just walking around, especially because I posted on like from a college campus. Yeah. So like a lot of the people viewing it went to that college. So like I would go to like, I would live in student housing. So I still go to like college parties and stuff. Cool. And then like people would be like, yo, you're the guy. That was cool.
Is it cool or does it get annoying? Or maybe when does it get annoying?
It has not gotten annoying. I don't want to sound like I'm an egotistical crazy man. It is a very cool feeling. It's a very cool feeling. Because for a long time, no one ever saw my stuff. I didn't know, like, but it was cool to be like, wow, this person watched what I really put my heart and soul into for many, many hours, and it resonated with them enough where they would know who I am and wanted to say hi to me. So that's what was kind of cool about it.
I was talking with a friend who's also a creator, just started university, and he was saying something similar. He was like, he was creating with his friends. He's done very well, but he was creating with his friends, and now he's on campus. And randomly, after like 2-3 weeks of class, people are now coming up to him and being like, man, I didn't know if I should come up to you, but I just want to say hi. And he's like, what? Dude, I'm a regular person. I just create really maybe inspiring videos or things that mean the most to me. And he's like, there's this weird distance now between him and other students where he doesn't want there to be distance, but he's seen as like a little celebrity. Like that must be hard to deal with, to try to get on people's level.
A little bit, yeah. I don't think I've had it to that much of an extent. Like I think it's probably happened like 15 times, 16 times, something in that number. It also just proves my point of how weird TikTok pushes out videos locally first. Like they don't ask for your location. They like, I think it's based on your IP address, but they just like, that's kind of the reason why I'm like, I need to be in LA posting from here. But it's very wild. It's very interesting they do that.
It is, but smart that, again, you're playing to the system without hopefully getting the system to control you. So we'll end off on, there's always 5 questions that I end off an interview on. But first, man, this has been so cool to hear how you think these like crazy life experiences, what you've been around, the fact that it seems like you've got a really good grounding. You surround yourself with really dope people. You do what you want to do while kind of understanding the other world, which I guess comes from the Gary Vee experience, comes from the other experiences you've been in. So much respect, man. So much respect for what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So here, 5 rapid-ish questions to end off.
Yeah.
First question is, what environment are you in that allows you to be the most creative?
Wow. Being around people that like bring my energy up. Like there's some
Yeah.
people that I like, but they just like don't hype me up too much. Like people that like really like bring my energy and spirits high, and like I like being around, and we can both make something we're proud of. I would say just
Yeah.
like the right people is absolutely like it's cool because I have like tons of people in like New York and LA and in Chicago. But like wherever I choose to go, like I'll have people that'll want to work with me, which is a really cool thing to have too. It's really just like that's my most important thing is just like cool people that I want to be around.
Shout out being around cool people. I'm with that. I like that answer.
Yes.
The second question is, I usually say what book has been most impactful in your life, but since you're so musically inclined and music's such a big part of your life, who's one artist or what's an album that's made the biggest impact on you?
Can I choose like 3?
Go ahead.
I would definitely say Vampire Weekend, Modern Vampires of the City, for sure. That's like one of my favorite albums of all time. Phoenix, Bankrupt, another one of my faves forever.
Okay.
And then a bunch of like, I would say Velvet Underground, either they have a self-titled album or like Red and White. I love that one. Let me think. That might
Big
be
answers.
the top 3. Beastie Boys, for sure.
Ooh.
Yeah, multiple. I mean, I can't choose a Beastie Boys album, but...
Are you a Rick Rubin fan?
Oh, I am, yes. Yes. My dad really is. He got me in. I more when I was younger.
Dude, your childhood is almost like what I've been doing and been interested in over the past 3 years is your childhood, and that's wild to me. Third question I'll ask is if you were to give a TED Talk, either what would it be titled or what would you talk about?
Oh, man. I've like moved around so much and done a lot of different things that I don't know. Maybe like something about just doing what you want and trying it out and just, I don't know, probably something about like not being afraid to move forward and try new things and like
love that.
Build to really what you want to do and finding creative ways to do what you want to do regardless of where you are in your life. Like taking the steps to like, that's one of my biggest things is like why I made my show was like finding ways to get where you want to be at your current level that can actually work and succeed.
Got it. I think that'd be a fire TED Talk. I think that'd be a fire TED Talk. Question 4, and I feel like you'll like this, but I also have a feeling like the last 2 questions you're going to have a hard time with, and you'll see why in a second. 4th question is, who is someone that you think the world should know more about?
Oh, 100% Darren. Mr. Darren. Darren on TikTok. He's like one of the biggest inspirations that made me. He's also the coolest, chillest dude ever. Happy that we're like kind of homies now, but he is super great, and he has that NBC thing coming out, which will hopefully be awesome. Jordan also, who you had on the podcast, massive inspo for me. Like I've loved his videos for so long. I met him first when I was like 16 on the Brooklyn Bridge at a Brett Conte meetup. Ever since I found him, like he's so talented at like building and like doing all this creative like he is super rad dude. He's also super nice and chill dude. Those are my top 2, man.
Yeah. I like that a lot. That a lot. Okay, last question. Similar to the 4th, but who's someone that, again, like you would give money to or you would help in any way today because you feel like if you did, it would get them to really where you think they can get to?
I've really been digging the Public Opinion TikTok account, if you've seen that. It's Jack Coyne. I think that's how you say it. The guy who used to work for Casey. I've met him one time. But him and then Henry, they do this really sick, like on the street show about New York, where they interview people about New York. But it's also very like a lot of these like on the street shows are edited so quickly, and like it's just like okay, like we get it, like it's just like bam, 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 sensory overload with a question and then done. And they do it in such like a classy way. The typefaces they use, like one of my biggest things is title design. I spend so much because my mom's a designer, like titles and like things looking pretty, like typefaces looking pretty is so important to me. And they just do. I love the fonts they use. I love that they aren't too over the top about it. Like I really love what they're doing.
Love that. All right, I gotta check them out. I think everyone else has to check them out. Here's how I end off. I said I end off with 5 questions. But the last thing I do is I'm gonna ask you a question. If you know it, no stress. If you don't, that's cool too. I promise you, we're gonna put out this episode. It's gonna be an amazing episode, regardless. What is your most liked video right now on TikTok? Do you know your most liked video?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm not proud of it, but it is me crashing a wedding and there's a 2-part series. They both have like over 10 million views in conjunction, but it was completely faked, and I did it at my friend's wedding. This is the first time I've ever said this was fake, but it was 100% fake. I got written about in like The Sun, like tabloid papers, saying that I crashed this wedding. Everybody thought it was real, and it was just my friend's wedding that I pretended to sneak into.
Unbelievable, man. Manufacture success.
Actually, I think that might be past. I did this video when I was applying to VaynerMedia. They were like, okay, if you want this TikTok job, you have to make a video about bananas. So I wrote this really obscure video about...
Oh, that's what that bananas video was about, where you go with that to that woman, give her a banana, you guys cook.
Yes. Yeah, that's not real. That's all my old videos are all fake.
Yeah.
But that one was like... that one was like one of my favorites, because that was like one of the first ones like I like wrote out and like was like, this is fucking cool.
Okay, give me a little bit of background. I know I said like this would be the end, but give me a little bit of background. How did you come up with the idea? Why the bananas? Why making banana bread?
Yeah. Oh, well, the thing for the job was like, make a TikTok about bananas. You have full creative freedom. Just send it to us, along with your resume. So I was like, okay, and I wrote this really fun idea out where this woman that used to work with my mom, I was like, would you do this for me? And she's like, yeah. So then she's just really cool, old little lady. She's not that old. I'm not going to call her old. I'm not mean. But she, middle-aged lady, she goes out and she's like, I'm like, I went to the store and bought a bunch of bananas. And then I walk up and hold the banana out. And then she just looks at me awkwardly. And then she's like, I make a mean banana bread. You want to come to my house and we can make one together? And then we go to her house, which is really my mom's old office that doesn't have an oven, so we didn't even bake, and we just make banana bread together.
I love that scene. I love the scene when you're making banana bread together. It's almost like that. It's like the scene in that romance novel when everything comes together, and like you're both holding the spoon together, and you're looking at each other and smiling. I love how you took that that cinematic element and brought it in. That was unbelievable.
Thank you. That was kind of the goal. And then I was like, you know what'd be awesome? I was like, do you mind if we feed each other? And then we got the forks and we fed each other. And I was like, okay, if I feed it to you, can you react like really well? And then she's like, tasty. Oh my gosh.
Well,
it's very funny.
You take a look at the fact that was let's call it the audition tape with your resume.
Yeah.
But what you're doing for Gary is you're just taking him speaking about things, cutting it up.
There is a Gary V search engine. If you go to search.garyvaynerchuk.com, you know this, and you can type anything he's ever said. That's all I would do. Is like I would like find a trending song, like really like inappropriate, weird trending songs, and I would find Gary saying those words and make him rap the song. Those were the videos that did the best I did.
No way. Okay, because I was gonna say you showing up and creating this comedic video and you being someone who loves comedy and then having to do something that's more like cut and paste. Dude. The fact that they let you do that is amazing.
I know. It was like because I also did that during COVID alone in my house. I did that TikTok stuff and I was like, I have to make 7 videos a day and then I have to post 7 a day. I have to get Gary's approval and copy on every single one. I have to text him all the time.
Jesus.
And like, it was a lot. And definitely towards the end, things just got getting so abstract, like Adult Swim, absurd, weird comedy. Like I turned Gary blue, and he's eating these blueberries, saying, "I want blueberries." Like I did weird stuff, but they were like, "Okay." And I was glad. Most of them didn't do that well, but they were fun to do. They were fun man.
I think if anyone leans into the internet, who is a bit of an old head, it's definitely Gary. So you trying to essentially make him a meme. If any of those popped off.
Oh, I know. That was the thought.
There's a comedian who's on TikTok. He's a creator. He goes by Nima Naz. Do you know that name?
I don't, no.
He's the guy that came up with the impression of Gary.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I connected them and got him to do a video with him one time. I'm thinking of the same person. I think we have to be.
He's more of he's an Iranian dude, like longer hair, a little bigger.
Yes.
No. He's Canadian.
I'm pretty positive I got him to do a video together one time.
Well, you saw that he opened up for VCon.
Yes, that is the guy then. I originally did. I think I did the first thing with them.
That's insane. Well, what a badge. I'm going to create that badge. When I see you in Chicago, that's the badge I'm going to give you. Eagle Scout badge, but instead of Eagle Scout, it's the internet weird meme-esque badge. That's the badge I'm going to give you. This has been an absolute pleasure. Very
Yes.
excited to see where you go. And just thank you for coming on
so much.
and being open with all this.